All right, welcome back. Today, we're jumping into a bombshell tech story that has everybody talking. We're talking $20 billion, the biggest name in AI, and, well, a deal that is absolutely not what it looks like on the surface.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The news breaks, and it's a big one. Nvidia, the absolute giant of the AI chip world, is at the center of this massive industry-shaking deal.
And when I say massive, I mean look at that number, $20 billion. And get this, it's all cash. That's the kind of figure that, even in the crazy world of tech deals, makes everyone just stop and stare. So, to put that number into perspective, this isn't just big for anyone. It's record-shattering for Nvidia. This is, by far, their largest deal ever. I mean, it absolutely dwarfs their previous record, which was buying Mellanox back in 2019 for almost $7 billion. This is a whole different league. But here is where the story gets really interesting. Because once you dig past that jaw-dropping headline, you start to realize, wait a minute, this isn't a normal acquisition at all. And this is where things get weird. On one hand, the headlines are all screaming. Nvidia buys AI startup Groq. But then you look at the official company language, the fine print, and it says it's a non-exclusive licensing agreement. So what is it? Are they buying the company or not?
Well, we actually got the answer straight from an internal email from Nvidia's own CEO, Jensen Huang. And this quote just makes the puzzle even deeper. He says, crystal clear, we are not acquiring Groq as a company. So they're taking the people, they're licensing the tech, but they're not actually buying the company itself.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question we're going to unpack for the rest of this explainer. What in the world is actually happening here? What kind of deal is this? To really get the strategy, you first have to get the players. And this is a classic story, right? It's the industry Goliath going after the smaller but incredibly strategic innovator, one with a very, very special background.
I mean, the dynamic here is just fascinating. You've got Nvidia, the trillion-dollar titan that basically powers the entire AI revolution with their GPUs, and then you've got Groq, a startup from 2016. But here's the kicker, the part you have to know. Its founders were the actual engineers who created Google's tensor processing unit, the TPU. That's one of the only real rivals to Nvidia's hardware.
Okay, so with that context, this very unusual deal structure suddenly starts to make a whole lot more sense. This wasn't some mistake in a press release. It's a deliberate and, frankly, an increasingly common new way for tech giants to get what they really want. Let's just give this thing a name. We'll call it the Accu license. At its core, it's like a surgical strike. A huge company targets a smaller one. But instead of doing a full, messy merger, it just carves out the most valuable parts, the technology, the patents, and, yeah, most importantly, the brilliant people who created it all.
So here's how the playbook works. First, you license all the important tech. Second, you hire the core team. And in this case, Groq's CEO and all their senior leaders are moving over to Nvidia. And then third, you just leave the corporate shell behind. Groq is actually going to keep operating as its own company, just run by its old CFO.
And make no mistake, this is totally becoming a trend. This isn't even Nvidia's first time pulling this move. Just a few months ago, they did a very similar, though smaller, deal with another AI startup called Nfabrica for over $900 million. So, we've talked about the what and the how, but now let's get to the most important question of all. Why? Why spend $20 billion in this very specific, kind of weird way? Well, it all comes down to a fierce, fierce race for one single resource. When you break it down, the strategy here is pretty genius. For that $20 billion, Nvidia instantly gets a world-class engineering team. They get to plug Groq's special tech, which is all about low-latency inference, basically getting AI answers super, super fast, right into their own systems. At the same time, they neutralize a really dangerous rival, and they do it all without the massive headache of a full-blown merger. And that brings us to what this is really all about. In this huge AI arms race between Nvidia, Google, Meta, Microsoft, the most valuable resource isn't just silicon. It's the people. It's that rare human expertise that knows how to build this stuff. This deal wasn't just a deal. It was a massive land grab for talent. So what does a deal like this mean for everybody else? Because this isn't just one company's clever strategy. It really feels like it signals a fundamental change in how innovation is even going to work in Silicon Valley from now on. I think the big takeaway here is that we're looking at a brand new model for how huge companies absorb cutting edge tech. The goal isn't always to own the company anymore, it's to own its brain power. And that raises some huge questions, not just for founders, but for all the investors who fund these startups in the first place.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. In an industry where top talent has become the new currency, what's the real endgame for the next wave of startups? Are they being built to truly innovate and compete on their own? Or are they basically just talent incubators, designed from day one to be sold off,